As I'm calling forward the First Nation Health Council reps, Chief Maureen Chapman and Gwen Phillips, to provide some final remarks, I'm just going to give you a couple of housekeeping items. Gentle reminder that tomorrow we do have breakfast here again, and you'll be going at 8:30 to your regional caucuses from 8:30 to 9:30, and we'll be back here at 9:30 in the Grand Ballroom for the plenary. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. On behalf of my co-moderator and myself, we thank you for a day of serving you. Cook's Jam.
Okay, I've been advised that when we're done, you're done. So, what an awesome day, I think. And first of all, I'd like to acknowledge our knowledge keeper this morning with Shane Point, with that ceremony that he did with us holding hands. I found that to be very powerful. And then secondly, is he still? Yes, he's still here. And I'm sorry if I pronounce this wrong, but Quaithantan, I'm sorry, Cliff. Quithonaton. Okay, thank you, Byron. Quithonaton. I thought that was a very moving ceremony as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the National Indian Child Welfare Association, which I've attended their conference over a number of years. Willie, Charlie, and his family have attended some of the conferences over the years, and they're very progressive in the work that they do, and particularly some of the work that comes out of Alaska, as you've heard from our colleagues over the years, being able to attend some of those. And Terry, looking forward to the one in San Diego. I think that it's an excellent place to host. And so if you haven't participated, I recommend you do, even though there's different laws in the states and the other U.S. things, and well, we've got a new president coming, so I'm not sure about that. But anyway, what I wanted to touch on, before I get totally political, and before I do that, I just want you to know this is my very first Christmas present, first one of the year, so just thought I'd let you know that if you wanted to be second or third to present me a present. And I received gifts very gracefully. So anyway, I was listening during the presentation after Lori Wanamaker, and I have a very high regard for Lori and her work and her mindset in terms of we're going to do this work with First Nations. It's not a question. And just a few of the things that were raised was around the drugs and alcohol, of course, and how are we going to change this? A question for all of us that are working at every level. And it was good to hear from the audience. One of the ladies said that they were happy that the ministry is listening to us. And with my participation at those tables, they are, finally. And the work that the First Nations Health Council does with the ministers and the deputy ministers table is making a big difference. Hear loud and clear the comment about needing our own authority on children and families. We were almost there once, as some of you in the room can attest to that, and the funding was cut. And hearing again, you know, the child entity that's based on the Health Council model. If we've got a model that's working, why would we try to recreate something that we have to put a lot of time and effort into? Speaking always for being the starting point of all the work that we do is the culture and the spirituality. It's not something we add on. This is where we need to start from in all of the work that we do. And there was a question about a separate body to do the children and families. Who will that be? We need to respond to that question. We've heard back and forth about who that should be. Should that be part of the Health Council or in partnership with the Health Council? Greater accountability with providing the terms of reference, sharing with you, and not creating additional bureaucracy. We've had too much of that to deal with in all of our areas in our lives that we work. This quote, and I don't remember who said this, but this resonated with me in terms of we need to address the trauma. Treatment centers don't address the trauma, they address the behavior. And that one, I think, is very clear about what we need to do. And dealing with that historical trauma, I think, will take us a long way in how we need to teach and help those along and mentor those along behind us. And from the Namgis, they talked about using the Terry Cross model that works in their communities. That's very encouraging because their work is very valuable. And there was a question about providing the money to restructuring our families. Instead of spending money in court systems and everything that isn't working for us, why aren't we investing that money in our families? So that's my summary, and my counterpart, Gwen, will fill in the rest. So thank you for your attention, and I thought it was a really good day.
Thank you, Maureen. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us. I think you're here because we care. We care about each other. We care about our families. And I've had the great pleasure of actually working amongst many of you for almost 3 decades, or probably even over 3 decades. Nathan, hey. Nathan was the political lead at the First Nations Education Steering Committee in the 1990s, and I was the chair of that education body. And we had envisioned trying to work collaboratively with all of the other summit organizations at that time. We had a few conversations with Doug at the Health Committee, and we were the Education Committee. And we had such big tasks in front of us at that point in time that just sorting things out for ourselves was a big challenge. And as we started to move forward, we saw conversations starting to merge, and many of you leaders would have been around in the early 2000s, et cetera. When we started to actually sense that there was going to be a change, we had a different federal government in place, and that was really the beginning of that transformative change accord conversation that happened. And as we were reminded yesterday, there's some unfinished business from that original commitment years ago, that the work we did in health was grabbing hold of something that was very important and not letting it go. And we know that that was just the beginning of the conversation. And we've been hearing over these past couple of days how important things like child welfare are. But child welfare is not just about the child's protection, it's about the welfare of the child being a whole being. And so we talked back in those early years about the health blueprint. How many of you remember the health blueprint? That document actually spoke to all of these various determinants, and it kind of got narrowed down into the health component of it as the transformative change accord kind of, sort of, I don't know what the right word, it got Harperized, I'll call it that. So we sort of left that dark decade, and we got some light shined on us not that long ago, and we saw a great will from many of our partners to try to do things differently. And years ago at home, we discovered a saying called "try differently, not harder," and that was from the work we'd done around fetal alcohol. And so we know that, as we heard from Terry and others today, that our work is about reclaiming ourselves, remembering, nation rebuilding, bringing those things that were historically important to us, they're important to us today as well. And so when we were listening to the issues in justice, it wasn't just about policing, although policing was critical. And I've already heard from Doug, he's going to meet with, what's the guy's name again? Bob Paulson next week from the RCMP in Ottawa, and he's going to meet with public safety, who's the boss for the RCMP, so your issues will be brought forward. So we acknowledge that justice isn't just about courts. Justice is about morality, it's about treatment, it's about relationships. And we know that if people don't know us, they don't know how to relate to us. They think about us as Indigenous people. That's an easy way to think about us. I am Tunacha. My language is an isolate language. It's spoken by only a few people in the southeast corner of this province, in Montana and Idaho. So I don't want to indigenize programs the same way none of us do. We want to bring them home and make them our own. So justice starts with our own customs and our own beliefs and our own language, the way we work, and then we work outward from that point. So justice is about just us. Education and post-secondary education. At home, we've confirmed that if there's any one institution we need to fix, it's the education institution. Because that is the institution where you actually grow people. That's the institution where you shape minds, where you create relationships and behaviors. And we heard about modernization of the school system, and I had a whisper in my ear, what does that mean? And I said, I think it's because the school system we actually see in the public system is based on the industrial era. It's never been modernized. And in fact, if we think about a modern school system, it would be based on our ways of doing things. And they're talking about things like experiential learning. They're talking about all these things. That's our ways of doing things. So education for us, it has to be focused around, again, our culture. It can't be learning about all of their ways and then having, as I said to my partner at the table, language class in the janitor's room at the back of the school. No. Education, language, culture, it needs to be all woven together as one, because that's where you do create strong, healthy humans. We talked about the Gladue report a little bit and said maybe it's too late at the time a person's actually in front of a court system to have a Gladue report. Isn't that the education system's job? Isn't that our job to know our people? We talk about diagnosis of people and putting labels on them so they can access resources. Should we not just know humans and what a human needs? Why do we need a label? As soon as you give me a label, I become something. I behave like the label. Call me something and I will become that thing. So we all know we want to move towards something positive. So we talked a little bit about having that opportunity to take these things home, because when we do, we heard about the success that's possible. We heard success from a community when they have defined for themselves what they want to do. And we see evidence of this all around. So I had a chief say to me, can we have a gathering when that's all we do is talk about all the good things we've done and share with each other all the good things we've done? I think that would be an awesome thing for us to do. So we know that justice isn't just about courts, it's about fairness and morality. And we know that education is about having our people become strong, healthy citizens again. It's about them knowing themselves from birth. It's about being placed in the center again. So I'm really hopeful by what I'm hearing. We know that the ministries have said to us, we don't know everything. We're just learning. We have never been down to your communities. We have never been on the ground. And we want to come back again. We want to know more. We know we're not going to get this right the first time. So please, bear with us. We're here for the long haul. We both want the same outcomes. And Lori Wanamaker, when she was leaving, she said, we could never have done this without you. And she meant you, every one of you that took the time to attend those regional caucuses and to be here to have the conversations we're having. So I know myself, based on the work that I've done at home, my role has been, I've been a director of education, I've been a director of health. I broke the master tuition agreement way back when. I wrote the fetal alcohol spectrum disorder book that's in Finesk's library. I actually got a call a while back. Do you still have that book? We can't find it. We want to reprint it. Sure we do. So all of you know that everything you've done is the right thing. The things you've told us have been heard, duly recorded and noted, and those deputy ministers or their proxies will be coming back to your caucuses in the spring to tell you what they've heard again and to remind themselves of what's left in front of them to do. So the next steps are about us deciding what we want to do in our own regions and then informing ourselves more, informing the other governments more, and moving forward, because it is about us, just us.